What's up, fellas, ladies? There's 3 of you that watch my videos. I have the updated Gear4Music 638 baritone bass 6 thing. Hold on. That is a lot of things to say. The Gear4Music 638 baritone bass 6 guitar. You know, it's like essentially a short scale bass with guitar string spacing. Why would you want something like this? That might be a totally legit and reasonable question you're asking yourself right now. The reason that people like these guitars, basses, however you want to look at it, it's essentially a really long baritone guitar or a short scale space with tight string spacing. You choose your own adventure. You know what I mean? The reason that you might want a guitar like this is because this can handle extremely low tunings due to the baritone nature of the guitar and other things. We'll get into all this stuff as we go through the video, but essentially that's why people like these things. So as of right now, this is tuned to E standard, but like a whole octave below a normal guitar. And I'm not even on. What am I doing? Yeah, chunky AF. Now you could also use this like a normal bass. You know, if you just have small hands and want to play on a instrument that is bass-like but not so stretchy with your fingers. You know what I'm talking about when I say stretchy. This could do that as well. That's why these guitars were originally made, like back in the 60s. I think the bass 6 of the 60s editor, me, check that out. And then at some point it got taken over by the big Chungus boys that just wanted to tune really low and go brrr. And if that's you, you know who you are. Now, I just gotta be straight with you. Gear4Music is sponsoring this video. This guitar might not necessarily appeal to me because I'm not like I'm a sort of Chungus boy. I don't know if you can tell, I've gained some weight lately. But that's not what I'm talking about. What I mean when I say Chungus is just, I'm talking about the guitar and tuning down because it gets really sounding. And I like to tune to C standard, so this is quite a bit outside of my wheelhouse, but I don't always have to make videos like for myself and the things. I can make videos because I know you're interested in things too and try to give you my opinion on them, try to give you information. And that's what we're gonna do in this video. If you are familiar with my reviews, you know how this goes. I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna put it on the bench. We're gonna strip it down. We'll give you measurements on everything. Just really give you a very in-depth look at this guitar, you know, in case you're interested in one. And if you're not, you can just hang out and listen to me fumble some chuggy riffs. I'm just trying to get a feel right now for this guitar and things I may want to address when we get to that point. That's why I do it this way. But before we get into that, let me educate you, and really myself for that matter, and let's read the specs. This is the Gear4Music 638 baritone 6 electric guitar in green. Comes in a few different colors here. We have a pink version, a white version, classic sort of 60s, 70s burst style with like a tortoiseshell pickguard. That one's pretty cool, but this is green. It is an alder guitar with a bolt-on roasted maple neck. It has a scale length of 30 inches. The neck radius is 16 inches. It has a C-shaped neck profile. More on that when we put it up on the bench. We have 22 nickel silver extra jumbo frets. It has a Graphtec Nubo nut with a width of 42 millimeters. We have 2 chrome covered ceramic humbuckers. We'll get the measurements on those here when we get it on the bench. 1 volume knob, 1 tone knob, a 3-way toggle switch to switch between the pickups. We have a plastic 1-ply pickguard. On the hardware end, we have a chrome tune-o-matic bridge, and I'm assuming these are in-house tuners, but they are unbranded tuners. And all of this guitar at the time of making this video comes in at 199 pounds. I don't know how much money that is. Hold on, let me check. That is $227 at the time of making this video. It's a pretty good deal. $227 is pretty low barrier to entry, I feel like. Let's talk about the signal chain real quick. I am running this Gear4Music 638 baritone into the devil from my company, Obsidian Audio. This is a boost/noise gate. There's more information on that in the description if you are inclined to be interested in it. I'm running that into my PRS MT15. The reason that I'm doing that is people get mad when I demo a budgety guitar through not a budget rig, and this is just the cheapest amplifier that I have in this room at the moment. So that's why I'm doing that. That is running through my Mesa Boogie 4x12 cabinet, being mic'd up with an SM57 and a Voodoo Ribbon 1 microphone. I do want to do the clean pickup demo right now while it's in a standard-ish tuning, just in case I end up in a weird tuning. So we're gonna do that, yeah. Here's the bridge pickup. Middle. And the neck. has really good full sounding pickups, and you can really hear how much the guitar is resonating. You know, it resonates kind of like a bass. I mean, it makes sense, right? It's got a huge piece of wood for the neck. Quite a bit different than your traditional 25.5-inch scale guitar in a lot of ways. You know, I think I've pretty much got everything I need out of this guitar. Like, you know what's going on, I know what's going on, so let's just get this on the bench and start exploring. Yeah. Would you look at this? I actually had a pack of 𝗦cie𝗰𝗶𝗹 6-string baritone slinky strings. 13, 18, 30, 44, 56, 72. So we're a little bit thicker than the strings that are on here right now, but I think it's gonna be fine. I actually don't know how this was set up because when it came to me, it was detuned, you know? So I don't know if this was meant to be played in, you know, E standard, like bass E standard or not. I just kind of tuned it to that. So we'll see where we end up with these strings, though. We'll probably be somewhere close. Okay, so it's time to take some measurements here. One kind of odd thing that happened when I took the strings off, the post for the bridge came out. The way these posts usually work is you have to hammer them down into the wood, and then they're supposed to fit in there really snug. But this is a really simple fix. I have a solution for this. I'll show you this. The funny thing is, I was kind of expecting the ferrules, I always forget how to say it, but I was expecting these things to fall out, because these typically fall out of more inexpensive guitars. But those didn't fall out. The bridge posts fell out. Thought it was kind of funny. Let's get some measurements. Yeah, let's do it. I think it said it was a 42 millimeter nut. We are at 41.69 millimeters, or 1.64 inches. Up here at the 12th fret, we're at 52.25 millimeters, or 2.05 inches. Now this is where it gets interesting. Let's talk about the neck profile and the neck thickness, because I think this is probably very important to a lot of you that want to go down this road. This is 21.46 millimeters, or 0.84 inches up at the 1st fret, and 23.37, or 0.92 inches at the 12th fret. This thickness is kind of maybe a little bit thinner than like a Gibson neck profile or something like that, but it's quite a bit thicker than something like maybe a Jackson Speed neck or an 𝗦cie or something like that. But you have to consider this is also a 30-inch guitar as well. You know, I mean, we're really in bass guitar territory here, and with that considered, it is a very thin neck by those standards. I mean, I would call this the most round C. It's just a very, very round profile all the way down the neck. There's no contouring or anything. Like you saw with the measurements, we do get a little bit thicker, which is, you know, pretty typical. It's pretty normal to get thicker as you go up the neck like that, but not by a crazy amount, and the shape does not change at all. It's just C all the way down. And we have the slightest of volutes here. So there's the stuff about the neck. Let's go to the pickups. Okay, this is slightly surprising. I guess I shouldn't be too surprised by this, but we are at 9.32 on the bridge, 9.08 on the neck, 4.65 in the middle position. You can get a close up here of the frets and the fretboard. I really like the way this roasted maple looks. You know, if you get up here and you look at the fretwork is pretty good. Now, one of the things allegedly about having a roasted maple neck is the process of roasting the maple actually hardens the neck and makes it less bendable. So you would really want that on something like this, where you're putting a lot of tension on the neck and getting, you know, those really low tunings with thick strings on it. The baritoneness of this guitar will sort of level that playing field a little bit. Since you have a longer distance here, you don't have to put as thick strings to get the same amount of tension on them. But, you know, supposedly roasting the maple does help with that as well. However, I'm not an expert on this. I can't attest to that with any sort of personal experience or anything. I am just relaying information that I have heard. Okay, what I'm gonna do here is just a really quick and easy fix for these posts here. So there's a bunch of different ways that you could handle this. I'm just doing a quick and easy way. I'm just getting some plumber's tape and wrapping it around these things, and that should make these sit in there tight. And the other thing I would say on this as well is, in my experience, little things like this are not uncommon on budget range guitars. The things you want to look out for on budget range guitars are things like, you know, the finish, making sure everything is actually put together to be playable. You know, you don't want a guitar that's just unable to tune or something like that. And there you go, these are pretty tight in here now. If I wanted to, I could pull these out, but you know, they're not just falling out on their own anymore. Again, you could use wood filler if you wanted to, but I don't think it's necessary. You know, this works fine. And if you are gonna use something like this, use it very sparingly, because what you don't wanna do is overload it, and then when you push the bushing in, it'll just like push the tape up and it'll jam up around the top of it, you know? You just want like a little thin amount to hold it in place. Hopefully you find that helpful. Does someone find that helpful? I don't know. So I wasn't planning on pulling this whole pick guard up, but when I started to pull up the plastic, little bits and pieces got stuck under the nuts, and it was just annoying. So I pulled it up and pulled all that plastic out, but this is how it's routed. That's what it looks like in there. Here are the pots and electronics. I mean, there's nothing to really write home about under here. We do have this little marking on these pickups. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. I'll see if I can figure out what that is, but yeah, KD. This one says bridge pickup, and this one says neck pickup. Anything important or of note? No, not really. Let's keep going. Neck is oiled up. I forgot. I wanted to measure these frets. So this fret wire is 2.68 millimeters wide, 0.1 basically inch, and we are height just under 1 millimeter, 0.95 millimeters, which is 0.037 inches. Oh, the other thing I wanted to point out is this bridge. Those are Phillips head, and it's got nuts on the other side. I don't know how common something like this is, because I typically don't use these style of bridges, but you know, if you're interested in one of these guitars, they're inexpensive enough to where I think it kind of justifies doing like a roller bridge upgrade or something like that. So I have a stupid problem, and it really doesn't have anything to do with this guitar. 𝗦cie𝗰𝗶𝗹. What's going on, man? These strings are made for baritone guitars. They're extra long strings. The low string is not long enough to reach the tuning peg, whereas the, you know, D string is a lot longer. Same thing here with the A. You know, it's as short as the E is. Now, I get that this is a reverse headstock, so, you know, maybe these are long enough to reach the tuning pegs if they were in the normal order of things. But why? Like, are we really saving like 2 cents here to not have this extra length of string? What is going on, dude? Why? Why would you do this? This is dumb. All right, I gotta figure this this thing out. Shit. All right, here we are. It's the next day, and hopefully I have the right strings. What I did was I bought a set of these D'Addario. These are specifically made for bass 6 guitars, so hopefully they fit. However, the gauges on these were not, I'm trying to keep it similar-ish to what this guitar came with. So I can't remember where I got the recommendation for this 𝗦cie𝗰𝗶𝗹 baritone pack for this guitar, but you know, doesn't fit. Don't use those. D'Addario nickel wound XL, made specifically for bass 6. Fit. You just might have to mess around with gauges a little bit. So what I'm going to do here is, this is a 72. There was a 68 on this originally, and then this is a 56, I think. Yeah, and then this is a 56, and luckily the 5th and 4th on the D'Addario pack are 72 and 56. So we're just going to swap those 2 strings out, since those are the ones that are too short, and then finish setting this up. This is really 𝗦cie𝗰𝗶𝗹, dude. So I've learned a lot about this guitar. There's a lot of things that I can relay to you. I do want to just take it through its paces though, now that we've set it up and, you know, has new strings on and everything, and you get a clearer idea of what this guitar sounds like. I mean, I already did the clean pickup test, but you know, just a bite-sized clean pickup test. Okay, you get the idea, right? We do need, I didn't talk about this earlier, whoops, forgot to do this during the setup. These guitars tend to have a lot of string noise. I don't even think I need one on the bridge side. Okay, there's a few things that I want to talk about that I think probably a lot of you that are interested in these guitars might be curious about if you haven't played one before. Number one, the scale length and what is it like playing a guitar, bass, whatever, that is this long in scale. Think about it like from the 4th fret up is a 25.5-inch scale guitar. So if I was playing from here up, I'm just basically playing a 25.5-inch scale guitar. That's what it feels like. Granted, a 25.5-inch scale guitar with really thick strings, but I digress. Then you can kind of imagine what would it feel like to have 3 more full-size frets going down from that. Hopefully that helps you kind of imagine what it's like playing a guitar like this, because obviously you can't feel it in your hands through YouTube, or else, you know, I wouldn't be here probably. But the other thing is the string spacing is guitar string spacing. It's not bass string spacing. So doing things like this, it doesn't feel like playing a bass, you know, it feels more in line with playing a guitar in that sense. Now, another thing you might be wondering is, man, if you want to tune down that low, why wouldn't you just use a pitch shifting pedal? Try that and you can come to your own conclusions on that. You know, if it's within a couple steps, you know, like if you do a half step or maybe like a full step pitch shifting, I think they sound really good and it's hard to notice. But the further you pitch shift away from your actual pitch, so in this case, a whole octave down, every pitch shifter is a little bit different, but they're all really, I don't know, fake sounding in their own way. Some of them will have artifacting, some of them will just have straight up lag. They're really great ones out there, not so great ones out there, you know, that's a whole other topic. But to give you a general idea, you know, the more you pitch shift, the less like a guitar it sounds and the more it sounds like a, you know, synthetic thing. Now on that topic, why a 30-inch baritone versus a 27-inch 8-string or 9-string or whatever for that matter? I would say when it comes to these things, it's really personal preference. When you start getting into extended range guitars, you're gonna be really limited on a lot of things, right? Because most stuff is designed for 6-string guitars, maybe 7 strings at this point. Like pickups, for example. Let's talk about pickups. That's a great one. With this guitar, these are just standard size humbuckers. You can put whatever pickups you want in this. Presumably. If this was a 7-string, it would be a little bit more difficult. 8-string, much more limited in your options, and 9-string, so on and so forth. The other thing is like the bridge, like I talked about in this is probably the first thing that I replace on this guitar, and if this was an 8-string guitar, I'm gonna have less options. 6-string guitar, way more options at way more price points. So they're all just things to consider. And the other thing, the caveat that I would say here is, I'm more comfortable playing this guitar than I am an 8-string guitar just because I have small hands. So playing this really low chunky stuff isn't such a stretch for my little baby hands. I think that you have to consider that this guitar is definitely a budget instrument. Now with that being said, I think it has really great bones for a budget instrument. I think that the roasted maple neck looks and feels really great. I don't know, I can't attest to whether or not roasting a maple neck helps stabilize it. Like, presumably it does, but I just don't have any experience doing that, and I don't feel like I'm an expert in this field. I know that that is a claim of roasting maple. You take the moisture out, it becomes less flexible, stiffer, better for lower tunings. I don't really know. I'm just relaying that information to you. You know, if you were into this aesthetic and this body style, I really like the shape of the body, the Jazzmaster style. I think it's great. They did an awesome job with this. The pickups for a budget guitar sound pretty decent in my opinion. Now, the caveat here I would say is that I think a lot of people do buy these types of guitars with the intention on modifying them. Again, like I mentioned, I don't think there's anything wrong with these pickups. I think they sound pretty good for the price range of the guitar, but I just assume that most people that are interested in these are probably gonna wanna put pickups that are more voiced into the style of music that they're into. And again, one of the benefits about playing those super low 𝗠𝗲𝗃 tunings in a guitar like this is you put any 6-string pickup in there you want. The world is your oyster. All right, shout out to G4M for sending this to me to check out for you guys, but more importantly, shout out to you for being here with me. If you like this video, make sure to do the things so that YouTube knows that you like it. If you really like my channel and you like what I do here, you can be massively overpowered by joining these fine people over on Patreon, where you get behind the scenes access to my new upcoming videos. That doesn't make any sense. You know what I'm talking about. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.